What's in store for the first episode of the Commander Ship Show? We got movie release changes, all the movies heading to streaming, not to mention how mad we are that Wonder Woman 1984 got pushed back. Yeah, that's the right response to it. We got all that and more starting now. I remember the first films my dad introduced me to and how much my early life revolved around watching as many new movies as possible. I would pore over film books, read every review and article I could get my hands on just to be involved. Cinema has taken me to amazing places and helped me through incredible lows. And this show is my love letter to movies, so I hope you enjoy. Hello everyone, this is Commander Ship. I'm the editor-in-chief for Nerd Union, and this is my movie podcast show. So this is something we've been trying to do for a while. Recorded a few episodes, didn't quite like where it was at, mainly because no one wants to hear my monotone voice all by itself. So I'm glad to be assisted and have valuable content and contribution provided by my friend, brought to you by the internet, Tom DeGroh, up in Chicago, Illinois. Hey,
hello.
Tom.
Tom DeGroh. Howdy, elder nerd. I think I can now use that title.
Yeah, that works.
I played Atari when it was new.
I don't know if I'd claim that. Just claim NES when it was new, and you're still like in the pocket. You're still in the range.
True. That's true.
You start going Atari, and it's like 2 buttons. No, it was 1 button. 1 button. So.
1 button. I didn't have it as good as you kids did. Get off my lawn.
Yeah. Well, so this show is really just going to be movie focused. If y'all are familiar with State of the Nerd Union, that got more like all nerd topics. We'll occasionally jump into that as well, but this is trying to really just focus on movies. If you've seen my reviews and things on the website, we'll be like talking sometimes when a new review has gone up. But right now we're in the middle of the COVID-19 crisis, and we can't ignore it because in movie world it's affecting a lot, right? We've been almost negligent to not talk about it. Tom, I think you said you had a few areas you wanted to highlight that were interesting.
Oh yeah. I think it's kind of interesting that coming out of this virus situation, that we're seeing a lot more people leveraging streaming technologies and other video technologies. For example, my martial arts instructor. He's been producing a bunch of small little videos, training videos, exercise. He also does meditative qigong, and he does sessions with that via video for the students, since nobody can meet. And you're seeing this among friends, like our dancer friends are putting out instructional videos and doing lessons out of that, as well as just videos of them dancing because they're jonesing for it. So it's
not a partner in there. Yeah.
No. 6 feet away, it's kind of difficult sometimes. But yeah, I think, and we're also seeing like a renaissance in memes with this as well. Just people are really in their isolation. They're developing a lot of creativity. So yeah, I think it's going to be exciting for the next couple of weeks, unless we go back to work next week, which we hope we won't. But
I don't see that happening. I mean, if it does, cool, but I doubt it.
But there are some interesting negative connotations as well. Like, for example, movie theaters. Chris Nolan is on a rant and reaching out to Congress to save theaters.
Yeah, I don't know if it's a bad rant though. Like it's like.
Oh no, it's a good rant. It's a Mr. Smith Goes to Washington rant.
Yeah. So for folks that don't know, Christopher Nolan did a op-ed in the Washington Post. He was talking about as we're thinking about potentially helping bail out different corporations, thinking about the importance of the small movie theater. So he could be referring to AMC and Regal in that same breath, but he definitely was mentioning a Missouri chain, B&B, I believe it was called, in the article, and just talking about a lot of these smaller indie theaters or just like small chains probably won't be able to survive this kind of hit. They're already laying off tons of employees. and I like that he was also stressing like the social need that we'll have once we get out of this.
Yes.
Movies bring us together. Movies are starting or conversation points. They're like snapshots of our culture at any given time, or question things that's happening in the culture at any given time. Because a year from now, like TV movies or things are probably coming out about this time period. You think about the movies that are
Yep.
popular, like Contagion and Outbreak on Netflix and Hulu right now. You know, but that was some of the first things
Yep.
people immediately went to. So I wouldn't be surprised you give it a production cycle and you see movies that are still related to what we're going through right now.
Oh yeah. Yeah. There's going to be probably an Alone in the Room or Alone in the House one for somebody.
Yeah.
But no, this like for me personally, there is a tier level of friendship when we go see a movie together. Like, there are people that I'm cool with, but if I go to a movie with you, that kind of is a game changer with the relationship. And also, like, I'm somebody. It sounds silly, but think about that. Like, there are certain people that you would probably never go to a movie with.
I mean, for me particularly,
And
it's because are you going to talk while we're in the
yes,
movie? It's like and if I'm reviewing it, it's like my eyes need to be on the screen. Don't hand me the popcorn bucket and be like, "Hey, can you go get a refill?" It's like that's not happening. I mean, I'm doing a
yes.
job. I'm doing a job.
But yeah, you learn a lot about somebody when you watch a movie with them, especially in a theater. And also, I'm somebody who always gets popcorn at that. And I know we all know that person that like goes to the grocery store and sneaks in like a full backpack and a week's worth of groceries into the movie theater. But that's where they make money. Like the margins on films are so small that's where they have to make the money is in the concessions. So when the movies reopen, and hopefully they will, and if Chris Nolan does his work, they'll get a little bit of support. But when you go back to those theaters, buy popcorn and pay extra for the butter.
I'm not paying extra for butter. I need butter included. Need it included, Tom.
Well, okay, fine. Slap 50 cents more onto it and don't tell anyone.
There you go. Popcorn is just the butter delivery device. If we're being completely honest,
Yes.
like we're not there to act
Yeah.
for. We're not there for corn. Corn doesn't help us out. It just passes through us.
It's high in fiber. That's always good for your dietary needs.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's. I'm hoping that Chris Nolan is successful in this. Movie theaters are really important to me.
Mm-hmm.
It's part of Americana. Like to quote Winston Churchill, "What are we fighting for then, if we lose movie theaters?"
Was that the quote?
No, it was during World War II. They were talking about cutbacks, and one of his Treasury secretaries said, "Oh yeah, we need to cut back funding on arts in order to pay for this war." And Churchill responded, "What are we fighting for then?"
Okay.
So, yes.
Right.
So yeah, the moment the bans are lifted, go to a movie. Go to the
First.
theater.
Of course, we're going to talk about potential game changer decisions that are happening right now. Before we get to that, let's talk about some of these delayed releases. So we
Yeah.
got some updates for you. So some of you may be aware 007 was supposed to come out April 10th. It has now been pushed back to later this year into November. There's still a few movies we don't have. Yeah, I was geared up, ready, excited for it.
Yes.
That's another thing. Like they've already spent marketing. Like there's so much committed money in marketing for some of these movies. Like Quiet Place and Mulan, it's already like gone in for this month, and that just evaporates. Like it's gone. Like that's just like at least it's seeded in the ether and people's minds.
Yeah.
But you're gonna have to redo all of that when it comes back to the new release.
Yeah, because November's going to come around, and then people are, wait, Bond is coming out again? Yeah.
And half of us will probably think it already came out.
Yeah. And yeah, it's why is it out on DVD? Is this a re-release?
Yeah. So we currently don't have any release dates for Quiet Place or Mulan. As we teased at the beginning of the show, the one we just found out about today, Wonder Woman 1984, was supposed to come out in June. It has now been pushed back to we don't know.
Yeah, it's well. Actually, I read one article before we started that said maybe August.
Okay,
So
You could do like a
that might
summer.
be livable.
You could do like a summer
Yeah,
commercial lead up to that. Hopefully, get it out right before school starts. You still get the kid dollars and stuff.
yeah.
Right.
I bet a crisp $50 bill that it'll be Labor Day weekend.
Oh, okay. You know what? That's not bad either. Yeah, yeah. So, I guess we probably need to
Yeah.
check the release calendar to see if anything else was slated to come out there.
Uh,
Because
yes.
because all right. So here's a few reasons why I'm like DC needs some hits. Like
Yes, they do.
Shazam did well. Aquaman made a lot of money. I don't know if I'd necessarily call it good, but it made a bill.
No,
It made a substantial amount.
it it made money, but so do man, so does Insane Clown Posse.
um, Birds of Prey. Birds of Prey was really good, although it did.
Yes.
My only critiques of that, I felt like there was two stories kind of crammed in to one. It was like it couldn't decide. Are you trying to make a Birds of Prey movie and team up, or are you trying to do a Harley Quinn movie? And I'm not saying it made the movie bad, right? So if anyone's like,
No.
oh, you think no, I actually really loved the movie, but I could feel this conflict between it's like is this kind of more of a biopic about Harley, which I'm down for, or if it's going to be Birds of Prey and she's in it, cool. But it almost felt like the three. I can't remember the Huntress. What was it Canary?
And
Can't remember.
shoot. No, Starfire's not in that. I can't remember who else.
That'd be kind of cool.
Man. Yeah, no. Well, and actually, I would. My only disappointment about that film was that there wasn't an end credits scene that included Poison Ivy.
Ah,
But the end credits scene in Birds of Prey is pretty damn awesome. That was
yeah,
pretty great.
yeah,
But I'll say, like, Birds of Prey, I think is the best DC film since Wonder Woman.
yeah. I'm
Yeah,
totally fine.
yeah, and it's sad for DC because they had Birds of Prey, and then they would have come out with Wonder Woman, and then they would have started a trend of actual good movies.
Yeah, build some momentum.
And
Suicide Squad have been coming
yep,
out. Oh,
they're doing it again. Yeah,
yeah, yeah. That gets me to production shutdowns, but we'll get to that in a moment because now, goodness, this is just sadness upon sadness. I promise everyone, every podcast is not going to be this sad. Um, so you're talking about Labor Day, and again, we'll have to check the current release schedule for the back half of the year to see what was on there. Part of my
hmm
suspicion is that's why Fast and the Furious got pushed to next year. Like that was the one
yeah.
I was like, 2021. Are you are you kidding me? Like, so I get the uncertainty, but like, good lord, they
Well,
really
I
wanted
mean,
to compete by itself.
I think there's that, but also let's be honest, Fast and Furious is filled with a lot of post work, and they probably shut down a lot of that post work
It's
in order to So they've got a ton of CGI work to do. Those aren't real cars crashing into each other.
sure hasn't been real in a long time.
Yep. But yeah, I also agree with you that they kind of want to just say, 2020 is a wash. Let's just shoot for 2021.
Okay, so here's one that's if y'all are not aware, before the Fox Disney merger, there's this little X-Men movie, and no, it's not Dark Phoenix, it's not Apocalypse or anything like that. It's called The New Mutants. You probably have no
Yes.
idea what I'm talking about because there was promos for this. A trailer came out. It was still owned by Fox. Fox kept pushing around the release date over and over and over again. So it's like, okay, we don't know what even you want to release this. Dark Phoenix came out, bombed. The acquisition was happening, so Fox also was like, well, we don't want to send this out now. Disney gets it, and then Disney doesn't even know what to do with it. They're like, this doesn't fit anything that we have.
Yeah.
But they finally decided, all right, we're gonna, all the work's going on this. We're gonna let it see the light of day. And then coronavirus. So this poor movie, if it doesn't come out this year, I wonder if it wouldn't be a prime direct to streaming Because like if all the money's already been committed to it, I wonder if they would just cut losses and just we're gonna throw this on Disney Plus and just be done with it.
So I had that same thought about Wonder Woman too, but that Wonder Woman's big enough that they're going to get 200 million maybe the first weekend, so they won't do that. But maybe Suicide Squad might be a direct release to DC. But
Gosh.
I hope New Mutants gets out because it's a redemption of that terrible TV show. I mean, it wasn't actually that terrible, but it was terribly received. And then also Maisie Williams.
Yeah.
Like this is a new opportunity for her to differentiate herself from flying dragons and such, and still be the badass that she is.
Indeed.
Yes.
All right. So, and then with release date pushbacks, that also means productions can't be because that's it's 60 100 people in a crew, so they also
Yep.
can't shoot anything. So all those fun Twitter photos we were seeing from Matt Reeves on the Batman and seeing the new Batmobile and all that stuff. Well, you can kiss that goodbye for a little bit because Batman production is shut down. Did you like seeing Keanu Reeves with a beard on the streets of San Francisco for The Matrix? You can cut that out too because Matrix 4 is
Yep.
toned down. One I'm not so disappointed about is the whole Disney slate of like the live action Little Mermaid and things like that.
Hmm.
I'm just
Who cares?
yeah. I don't. I don't mean. I don't want to be mean, but it was like the first one. I was kind of like, I don't care about that one as much.
And I need to differentiate because I don't think either of us are approaching this from like a bro thing of who cares about Disney or princess movies. I care about princess movies, but I don't necessarily care about the need to make these live action from what were masterful animation movies.
Yeah.
I don't think that they are going to add anything new other than Emma Watson playing something,
Yeah.
playing Ariel or something like that.
I have no
Actually,
idea who the cast is. I haven't even looked.
I'm gonna quickly look that up while we.
Well,
But yeah, Matrix 4.
while you look that up, yeah, Matrix 4 production's down. I was interested to see more Robert Pattinson photos in the bat suit because it still looked like they were going to work
Yep.
through some issues with the fit of the cowl and things like that. But like the overall just aesthetic of it looked really like I'm curious where this is going to. I'm curious where this is going to go.
Actually, I'm excited about this because just again showing my nerd age, the more what the hell it is as far as the casting for who plays Batman and Bruce Wayne. Usually, the better that person is, because like everybody, I remember as a kid, everyone's like Michael Keaton, the guy from Mr. Mom, is going to play Batman. No, yet yes,
Yeah.
he was great. And so I'm kind of excited to see what the sparkly vampire will do as being a bat.
Yeah. I mean, I remember we were like so non-Batfleck, and then the warehouse scene. I think if that didn't change
Yep.
your mind, like we could argue about his Bruce Wayne. I mean, but we could honestly argue about a lot of people's Bruce Waynes because sometimes it's kind of,
Yes.
there's things like I like how you did that, but then this was, or some people that should have been shoo-ins, like the Clooney Wayne should have been. It's like, oh, that's a slam dunk.
Yeah. Nope.
Um,
Yeah, Clooney missed the mark on both accounts. I think Val Kilmer was a great Bruce Wayne, but not a great Batman.
Right. So Pattinson's been doing a lot of small projects. So this would be his first like getting back into a big project. Even though like I love The Lighthouse, but I wouldn't consider it like a large project.
Yeah.
So this would be like getting back into blockbuster territory. Can hopefully wash Twilight out of his mouth, or like get out of the collective consciousness.
We'll
I'm
never
not
forget him.
never forget. I'm not even hating him for it. It's just
No.
yeah. It's just hey. It's a job. You get your.
So I'm going to throw out something potentially unpopular. Is I've been morbidly curious about Matrix 4. Just remembering Jupiter Ascending and what they did with that, which it's not. It is, but it isn't a terrible movie. Like I love the concept. I love that whole universe that they built of humans are actually multi-million-year-old people, or hundreds of thousands of year old, and so on and so forth. But um, yeah, I'm just wondering if they remember that conversation we had about Lucas, about his success is what made him terrible, and I think
Yeah,
that there isn't a studio that's ready to go to the Wachowskis and say, no, this is bad. You
that's
may want
true.
to rethink it. And so I'm kind of curious. I'm hoping that won't be the case. I'm hoping that this will be a knockout of the park. But um, we'll have to now wait until 2021 probably to see.
Yeah, I mean, because it was going to be, I think it was 2021. So now, so that's the thing we need to talk about in these production pushbacks, like especially anything that's heavy CGI. Like they
Hmm.
need considerable build time, or sorry, lead time to be able to get that done for a release date. So, and some of these we're looking at summer releases. So you think about like if Matrix doesn't get done by a certain point, then that 2021 summer release date's probably going to get missed. Could be the same thing for the Batman and a couple other
Yep.
ones. Um, it's a really painful hit. Um,
Yeah. I mean, and actually, people don't. I personally love animated movies and animated series, and we're probably going to run into the same thing. Like we haven't. It hasn't been announced yet, but I'm waiting dreadfully about Big Mouth being pushed back, or some of the others,
don't
or
say it's
any.
not so.
So like,
No, okay. All right. Well,
but at the same time, I know that there's a push for some groups, like, and I know we're bleeding into streaming instead of movies, and I apologize for that. But um,
we're gonna
like the
talk
Grand
streaming.
Tour, yeah. So, for example, the Grand Tour, they said that they have 2 episodes in the can for that, and they're actually trying to figure out a way to push that to production now during this situation while people are stuck at home. So there's a conscious effort to try and get content out. Um, we'll see.
Yeah.
See.
I was making a note that it feels a lot like the writer's strike in 2008. But the problem there was, or sorry, because there was no social distancing at that point. We get stuff like Joss Whedon working on like the script for Cabin in the Woods or Doctor
Yep.
Horrible's sing along blog. And I'm sure people will probably spend a lot of time writing. So like there could be like some great content that comes out of this, but there's just nothing that's going to get
Yeah.
seen during this time period just because no one can really put anything together or put themselves without putting themselves at risk. I'm sure someone might do something stupid, but it definitely is putting a risk factor out there.
I'm kind of excited about the idea of maybe seeing some guerrilla style films being made by producers, like 2 to 4 people, single camera type stuff that's
Mm-hmm.
really story focused, as
Yeah, yeah,
opposed to a lot of CGI or other things like that. Or you can, one person with a couple of good computers can do some pretty decent CGI these days. So at least passable.
yeah.
So
And just plan your shots.
um,
Just think about like where it needs to happen at, so you don't have to do too much. You know, if it's gonna be
actually,
like,
one thing going into like esoteric world of nerddom, there's a fan film from Star Trek called Axanar that they're actually pushing
yeah,
out,
yeah.
and I'm super excited about that. Even though they lost Apollo as a cast member, but
Was it Jamie Bamber? You're talking about
no,
the kid from
the
Glasgow.
original Apollo. Um, oh shoot, what is his
Uh,
name? He was in Battlestar Galactica as well, the new one. Um,
wow. It's Tom Zarek in the
we
show.
yes,
we're about to lose our.
we lost credit.
We lost credit.
We are
Oh
losing credit
gosh,
as every.
the meter is going down. Wow, I can see his
Uh,
face right in front of me.
yeah, um, but there. So, for people who are not aware, Axanar actually was this Google prelude to Axanar. It's a wonderfully made kind of documentary esque introduction to this film concept, which I thought was great. The unfortunate thing was that this film is about the war between the Federation and the Klingons, which happened to be the same subject matter that Discovery was
Yeah.
approaching. So CBS is like, no, don't do that, and then created all these weird, crazy laws and rules for fan fiction, which kind of flew in the face of nearly 50 years of fan content, which really fleshed out a lot of content for Star Trek. And honestly, if you look at Prelude to Exeter, I still think it might be a better story than Discovery season 1. Season 2, a whole different ballgame.
Uh, God, don't get me started on Discovery. Not in a bad way, because I do think season two. I think season two realized there's a lot we need to fix so that we can set this show up in its own. I think everything in season two was geared at just make some corrections from season one and get them in a good place. So like this will be an enjoyable season, but there's things I like kind of let go because I'm like I see what your
Yes.
intention is. You're building better character arcs, and that'll be the building blocks for you to do more later. But you couldn't do everything at once. So there's definitely like some nonsensical plot things that happen. I'm like I'll let it go. Sorry.
Yes.
Cal,
We'll have to go ahead.
I was gonna say Cal Nelson, our CEO, did a lot of write ups on NXR and was like covering
Mm-hmm.
that whole legal debate. So I definitely think people should go check those articles out on the website, and I can go dive and find those to bring them up for folks because
Yeah,
we
put
were
them in the
pretty
doobly doo.
because we were pretty sad.
Yeah.
That was it was looking like a really cool project, and like seeing that fight happen back and forth, and hearing people at the conventions being like, I don't understand why you're killing a good thing. This is pretty good.
Yep.
Y'all been screwing the proverbial pooch for a while. So,
Yeah. Yeah. And by the way, his name is Richard Hatch.
oh god.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a part of my brain that is now relaxed. Now that is remembered.
Could see the face. Could see different character names. Could not remember his name. Don't ask me who Starbuck
Yep.
was right now because I'll lose that as well.
Jamie Bamber. The original Starbuck?
Yeah, original Starbuck.
Dirk something.
Because I was saying Katie Sackhoff is the new Starbuck. But, oh gosh, you know what? That just reminded me. We need to check production for. So Sam Ismail, the guy who created Mr. Robot on a USA, he was making a new Galactica series. Yeah.
Okay.
I was really excited about it.
Please don't.
But I have to imagine it got pushed back. I don't know if they were in production yet, but it was supposed to come out at the end of this year.
Yeah.
I have to imagine that. Oh, we'll hunt that down, but I have to imagine that got pushed back.
And by the way, it's Dirk Benedict. And one of my favorite things to ever come out of Battlestar Galactica was watching him and Katie Sackhoff have cigars in a Starbucks while talking about being Starbuck.
Had cigars in Starbucks.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, they didn't light them, but, they chewed on them.
Yeah. All right, so let's get to our main topic, and it's a reason we've spent a little more time talking on Chris Nolan's theater push to save those because, or the reason we're worried about potential blowback or consequences of this next thing is there's movies being released early to streaming services. So, for example, and this one's not so surprising. So, like Rise of Skywalker, Frozen 2. They're in that pocket where their Blu-ray was probably. I have to double check what the original release was for the Blu-ray and digital on demand. But they were in that time. They were in that time frame of it's been 3 or 4 months. It's probably about time for those to come out. So that's not that surprising.
Yeah.
And you can go on Disney Plus right now and watch those. The ones that are surprising though, there's this dystopian like upper class hunt people down called The Hunt. They like buying people and put them into this like compound and they hunting people for sport. The Invisible Man and Elizabeth Moss that just came out like 3 or 4 weeks ago.
And really surprised about that one.
Yeah. Then Emma, Just Mercy, which was the Michael B. Jordan, Jamie Foxx film from January. All those, as I'm speaking right now, are available right now. So
Yep.
you could go stream Skywalker and Frozen 2. The others, you could go pay a 48-hour rental. So you pay whatever, like the $2.99 or $3.99, and like you could watch those. Some of them are on Amazon Prime Theater, which is this new option on side of Amazon Prime to pay for these and watch it in like a theater experience. Some more that just got added today would be Birds of Prey. So Birds of Prey is available today.
Woohoo.
Bloodshot, which is that new weird Vin Diesel mutant thing. I wasn't gonna watch it, so I didn't give it any more attention. It's like I'm giving you what I remember from the trailers. Uh, and
I just like when I saw that, I'm like, oh yeah, that came out.
and then the new I was about to say Matt Damon.
Matt Damon.
Matt Damon. The new Ben Affleck basketball movie, which is like a updated Mighty Ducks of basketball, that is also out today. So, and then let's see, next week is also the same time would be Sonic Onward, is you can already rent it, which is that new Pixar movie. Like you can go ahead and rent it. It'll be on Disney Plus April 3rd. So, in a short order, that's most of what was in theaters from February and March, and they're like available online. Like that is unprecedented. I don't think I can't think of a time where we've ever seen that happen.
Well, I always thought way back when the prequels were made and they were made in 100% digital. I thought, well, man, wouldn't they just release DVDs like a month later? But then I realized it's just to help theaters. They want those theater sales. So without theaters, though, there's nothing holding them back from releasing them, out on DVD. Yeah. And I'm sure we'll go back to that gentleman's agreement, so to speak, after this pause has been lifted, so to speak.
Yeah. All right. So the thing that's interesting, the streaming, and we got one that just moved to Netflix. We'll talk about it in a second. The rental ones, at least, okay, you're recouping some money directly from the sale of that rental. It's the ones getting added like Disney Plus and stuff like that doesn't quite make a ton of sense to me. Like if you use Netflix as an example, they need big properties like to stay afloat because obviously they're losing subscribers. So it's like anything they can get out on there to like keep people. It's like great. But for some of the other services, it's like in theater meant butts in the seat, tickets per theater, and so on and so forth. So just these things coming out onto the streaming service doesn't necessarily lead to an increase in subscriptions. Like there's not going to be a clean parallel of like, oh, we made $300 million on this movie when it was going to be in theaters. I was like, yeah, but that does not translate to a number of subscribers that would offset that millions that you would have got from the theatrical release.
Yep.
So I guess I get they're trying to help people out in the short term, but in the long term, there's got to be some subscription number, or there's got to be some kind of subscription goals that they want to hit for this to be palatable or like profitable.
So I think it's going to be interesting actually seeing the subscription numbers. Just focusing on my business side, Zoom in January got more subscribers to their conferencing service than they did in all of 2019 because of this. And it's because of China. So I think you're going to see Netflix. You're going to see Disney's. I'm putting on my stock hat for a second. Netflix is going to go up. Disney is not. Disney's going to take a hit because 30% of their income comes from their parks, which are closed. So they're taking a hit on that. And I also don't think, sorry, Star Wars fanboys, that Rise of Skywalker is going to be the thing that's like, I'm going to subscribe to Disney Plus now. I think they've got much more interesting content out there that is going to draw eyes to their service, like The Mandalorian. And yeah, I think you're going to see a lot more stuff, and especially if we're extended another month. I think that, as I said before, streaming services are going to scramble to get more content out there to get more subscribers. CBS Plus actually just announced today that you can watch Picard for free.
Mm-hmm. Which is a little
So
annoying because that's half the reason I only have CBS subscription is for Star Trek. So if you start making stuff free, I'm like, what? What do you do? It's like my
it's
value
free.
just. What was that?
It's free, but you still got to give your credit card information at some point.
Oh, so it's like an extended free trial. Specifically for
Yeah.
those. Oh, okay. Uh huh.
So maybe you won't get charged for this month.
Yeah, right.
Check your bank statements.
Yeah, right.
So CBS is now becoming more and more like Comcast.
Mm-hmm.
Screw
So
over the loyal users.
screwed royal. Ah, we don't need ya. They do, but
Yep.
so let's talk about. So there's one movie that was supposed to come out in the summer that rather than getting a theatrical release, is now just heading straight to Netflix. It's a rom com that was featuring Kamal Najinami and Issa Rae. They're like some. They go on a. I think they go on a date, and the date's going well, but then they get twisted into some kind of murder plot and like murder mystery shenanigans. A little bit like a date night that had
Mm-hmm.
dang it, Tina Fey, not Will Ferrell,
Oh yeah,
guy from The Office.
yeah. Shoot, Steve Carell.
Steve Carell. We are doing
Yeah.
terrible with
Wow,
names.
we are so bad with names today.
So bad with names today. We'll see if it continues. But
Yeah, I'm here with Keith Shipp today,
Keith, Keith.
and I'm Tim.
Yeah. So, given the style, given the topic for that movie, I think that's a really nice slide over. I don't think it necessarily hurts that movie's chances. It might actually improve it because there might be more people willing to take a chance on watching that on streaming than they would have in the theater anyway. Um, so I think there will probably be some movies that we see that like are easy transfers like that are like, hey, it was a
Mm-hmm.
comedy or it was like some kind of documentary that was gonna like let's just go ahead and move that over to Netflix, move it over to Hulu. I wouldn't be surprised seeing more transfers like that. I think it's the big theatrical like the Mulans or anything that they or like I no like let's like go back to Nolan. Tenet is not coming out on streaming. I would be so like pigs would start flying, rivers are boiling. Like if if that comes out on streaming and doesn't hit the theaters first, like that, I mean that's an end sign of in Hollywood at least, if
Yeah,
not for the world.
Nolan needs the big screen for his what is that? The IMAX 40 millimeter lenses and films. So yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he's gonna be like, I didn't shoot all this and I didn't do all this in this massive IMAX camera to then have that put on Netflix. It's like, let's see. But the cool thing for some of the smaller theaters is a theater back home in Nashville, the Belcourt, and they're doing. There's a movie they were supposed to come out this weekend. It was a Back a Row, and there's a service Kino, Kino, that they're going to be doing it's basically the same kind of rental idea that you can go on during this weekend or during the release, go pay for your like quote unquote digital ticket, and then you can watch the movie. They're also going to have like some online. I don't know if it's going to be on Twitch or anything like that, but it'll have like some online discussion because usually they would have, especially for the first release of a movie, and other indie theaters do this as well. But sometimes they'll do like a little Q&A if they can have the director there or have the director Skype in. So they're going to keep that tradition alive and do some of that before the show would have started, and then like give some recommendations on like, hey, we just had the live chat, so everybody go ahead and start. You don't have to do that, but it's some kind of a neat way to stay connected.
yeah. It's also worth noting that Netflix Party is also doing that now.
Yeah. So if you folks aren't
And
aware, there's like a Netflix extension plugin for the Chrome browser, so you can start up a movie on Netflix, invite your friends on that link, and that can be chatting away, watching it at the same time, but also chatting away in the browser.
yeah, the one thing I want them to do though is have video capability, but that might strain some people's internet connections.
Yeah, that might be a bit much. I would at least like the.
Yeah.
I haven't tested this, so I would at least from what I understood, this doesn't work. And I guess really at the end of the day, this would be no different than having a chat room that you and your friends are talking in while you're watching uh, on the on the Xbox app or like TV app. But that's kind of my thing of like I'm not gonna really chat on the TV. I'm not gonna like bring up a Chrome. I'm
Yeah.
not gonna like pull my PC. I'm not gonna link my PC to the TV and then bring up a Chrome browser. To like I already have an app. Like there's no point for at least for me. There's no point for that. Like
Yeah, I probably might use a third party as well, but sync with using the Netflix party app.
yeah. Let's see.
Because I tried to because I was watching Mad Men with a friend of mine who lives in Leeds, England, and that was such a pain in the ass for us to sync up.
Because
And
we tried a little bit this weekend also, and we're having some issues. Like what were your sync problems with it?
I was the best I could do was I was maybe about 10 seconds ahead of her on content. So, but the good news is that this was probably like the fourth time I've watched Mad Men, and this was the first time for her. So I was just like, oh, I'm gonna wait for her reaction to this line instead of, and that was my entertainment. Mad Men to me is now more like it's like chicken soup. It's something. It's one of my go tos when I'm down and I need office or suit envy.
Yeah. Well,
So
that's me and West Wing. But all right, I understand you. I was talking recently. I'm like, now I don't have to make a decision between doing my West Wing rewatch or my Battlestar rewatch. I'm kind of because of all the
yep.
time. I'll probably knock it out in 2 weeks. That okay? That's a little bit of a stretch. Uh, okay, so
West Wing, yeah. Battlestar that could be done. They had short seasons
extra seasons.
ish.
So we talked a little bit about what's on streaming right now, and even when I talk about the Kino service, so far as of this recording, there was only 10 theaters I saw on that, which is barely a fraction of the available theaters that may be trying to compensate and get some things on there like AMC or Regal services or like just the small time indie theaters getting any kind of recoup for films they've already bought into. So let's talk ramifications for just a second. Like some of my yeah. Um, so I think the profit thing we said it a little bit before. Like I think that's still valid. If there's not a clear, yeah, I could put this out on my streaming services, but then I miss out on making like let's say Black Widow. I don't think Black Widow was going to make $1 billion, and Black Widow was another one that we found out today got pushed back. Let's use that for example. Let's say if it was going to make $1 billion, like I don't see them just recouping that on streaming. So that may be one thing that helps
No.
the theaters, even though it doesn't help them in the short term. I think it helps in the long term, just not becoming a major trend of like, no, we still want to make our money from that, so we're still going to do a theater release before we like dump this out in the streaming.
So, and one selfish repercussion for you and I is I hope that they space these out because imagine if like we're going to have a month where we're going to have to see 2 movies a week almost. I envision like it's going to be Black Widow, then Wonder Woman, then you know 007, and then the next thing, and then the next thing, and it's just I'm going to be sick of theaters after that.
Yeah.
But it's still good because theaters do need our support.
Yeah. I do think there's going to be a gap somewhere though.
If I'm sure that they're smart enough to think about that because like I think about and I'm going way back, but like Equilibrium got screwed over by the Matrix because they released like 1 month after the Matrix. Or
like, who cares about Equilibrium? We just saw the Matrix. Like,
yeah.
This is your gun fu. Get it out of here.
But you know what? Equilibrium is I think is underrated though. Yeah, the gun fu thing is a little cheesy. And
to be fair, I still enjoy that movie, even though the show no emotion
yes.
thing doesn't. quite make sense when you see them showing emotion. In,
Yeah,
in,
the only emotion you're allowed is slight anger and irritation.
now, Keanu in that film, you know, would have been.
Ooh,
So
yeah,
I guess I'll clarify the gap a little bit though. Is
but
there's like these production cycles that have now stopped.
yeah,
There's films that should have started, or probably should have started in the summer that won't be able to because you think about these things that need to catch up, right? So, um, and like I could see that trickle, like there's gonna be like a ripple that goes through the production cycle, like, and
hmm
maybe the gap is just now. So maybe the gap is like what we're not getting to watch right now, and then the summer is screwed up because there's so many people that pulled out of the summer. So then maybe everything just shifts to where maybe there's not really a gap. Maybe this is the gap. So it's just like what we can't watch right now, on top of like summer pull out. So I could be completely wrong, but um, definitely when people are like negotiating contracts and stuff for the actors or actors and actresses and directors and stuff, everyone's in mind of like, oh, I should be able to get this done by that time, so then I can commit to signing a contract to do this one. But like, there's a lot that's maybe directors have to jump ship off of a thing that they were going to finish or start because they're not done with like we're talking about just the really things getting pushed back, but there's like a much more of a bigger cascade that we'll have to be
yeah.
watching out for.
Now you're giving me a dystopian nightmare where Zack Snyder has to take over a film.
No, he's too busy trying to make the Snyder cut that he keeps telling us exists. Yeah, don't get me started on that.
Just yeah, no, I become a very mean person when I think about Zack Snyder.
Dude, well, I don't.
He
Go ahead.
he destroyed my favorite superhero. He turned him into an emo-y Batman.
You don't want emo Superman, huh?
I
You
do
don't want.
not want emo Superman. I don't want teenage angst Superman.
Come on, come on. No, I understand. I do have a little more appreciation for the Batman v Superman um, goals they were going for. We can definitely say the execution wasn't quite there. Um, Although, like everything I keep hearing about Justice League, when I hear it's like 2 hours and four or not, no, sorry, not 2 hours. Like it was 214 minutes, so it was like it's
hmm
almost 4 hours. So it'd be like 3 hours 30-ish. It's like that's insane. Like that is a lot.
Yeah, yeah. It wasn't terrible. I will say that, but it was still a bit tone deaf. And while I was watching the movie, I don't know if you remember that kind of famous interview of a guy who was ripping into Batman v Superman, and the Snyders invited him to England
Hmm.
to watch some of the production, and he said that the Snyders said to him, "No, we get it, we hear it. We don't like you don't like deconstructions of your superheroes, and you want more jokes." I'm like, no, that's not what people are saying, but that's what we got.
That's what we got.
But anyway,
I mean, to to be fair, at least for the report, dang, I did not mean to get into. I did not mean to get into a Justice League Snyder Cut conversation. All right, I'm gonna stop myself.
that's okay.
The only thing I will say is that the things I know for sure is that because I used to be like, I don't care and I don't think the thing exists. At least what he's put out on Twitter will at least seem to suggest that he did shoot more than what we thought. There's been fans
Sure.
that put out there like, you remember all these clips from the trailers that didn't show up in the movie, and it's actually pretty extensive. There's a lot from the pre-Whedon takeover where you're looking at it and you're like, oh yeah, there's more stuff with Cyborg. There goes a whole conversation that Splash was going to have that just is completely gone. More Aquaman scenes explaining a little bit more of Atlantis before that movie would have come out. So I'm like, okay, and more explaining about the nightmare sequence that happened in Batman versus Superman. So I'm like, I don't know if that necessarily would have made the movie better, but I will I will retract my statement from. I guess no one actually ever saw it or heard it, but like my initial thoughts way back was like, yeah, that thing doesn't exist, and I'm like, okay, so there could be like this whole 214-minute things. That could very well exist and have been cut it down. And to the jokey thing, it's like that was studio execs as far as like what they told Whedon to do, and people have started lining those joke shots up to where you're like, oh, that's how he shot it, and then that comes off a little funny. That is definitely a joke. Like there's some very kind of clear night and day. So go ahead.
There's one specific scene that he talks about in that article and it actually did show up in the movie, and it is maybe it's a big statement to say, but is probably my favorite Batman scene in that is they're all meeting on the roof of Gotham PD, and Batman's talking, and someone says, "Hey, let's go." And then Batman's still talking, and the Flash ran away, and he turns around, and the Flash is gone. He's like, "Oh, that's what that feels like." And
yeah,
that was like, okay, that's good. I'll give you that one. But because that was in character, that was within the context of who he is. But I digress. Yeah. I have lots of feelings about Snyder's work.
Yeah. What? You have feelings about Snyder's work?
I have feelings about Snyder's work. From 300 to The Watchmen to... Yeah.
Yeah, we just won't. We won't talk about that. We won't talk about that.
No.
All right.
So, but streaming. So, fanboys, you got a lot of content to hate on in the privacy of your own home.
Yeah. Folks, I would definitely recommend you checking out the Kino film service. We're not being paid to check that. We're not being paid to say that. Of course, if they want to pay us to say that, you definitely give us a ring. Plugging. Because there's going to be a lot of indie theater films that'll be available that should have come out this week or this month. They're on there, and you can take advantage of the opportunity to still support your local theater. So if you just go to the Kino site, you may not know which theater it's supporting. So check out your local indie theater, see if it's on that list, and then you can go through that theater's website, and it'll definitely make sure that it gets helps support that theater. So technically, you could just go to the Kino website, KINO, but at least if you look at, do I have a local theater nearby that was going to show it, and see if they've gotten in partnership with them, that could definitely help them out during this time.
Yes, help out small local businesses.
Yeah. Let's see. We already talked about all the ones that everything we talked about that's out, released. Let's see. If you have not watched Invisible Man, definitely, as far as what's out that just it's been in theaters, I definitely highly recommend that. A little bit of content warning, though, if you're not, there's definitely heavy. So there's predictable gaslighting whenever you're talking about someone that's invisible. So you're trying to prove it, no one believes you. On top of, there's a domestic assault and violence reference to, and in some parts enacted out. So just a content warning for anyone that's not would like to know that ahead of time, or that's not something that you're interested in watching. I do think the redemption that happens at the end of the movie is pretty darn amazing, but I can understand if you don't necessarily want to sit through that to get to that point. But Elizabeth Moss does a great job.
I will admit I have not seen that one yet, but when I did see the trailers in the theater, I thought, wow, this is a dark turn on what was a campy 50s monster film.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it leans a little into the darkness that Hollow Man had.
Yep.
I'm trying to think some other ways to describe. And I will say, because what was driving me nuts was that I was seeing these high scores on the film. And to be clear, whenever I write a review, I might look at the score, but I don't read the reviews. So I was like, okay, I guess I still want to write on this, but why? Really? Because looking at the trailers and seeing that kind of score, I'm like, this doesn't correlate. This is I can't say objectively bad trailer, but it's as close to an objectively bad trailer of this looks like a gimmick. I don't appreciate nothing's really exciting me about this. And then to get into the film, and I'm like, oh, this is actually. That was a really thoughtful shot design. Or the movie
Yeah.
does a really good job, especially once you start to figure out that all right, someone's going to be invisible, and that's going to play into some of these shots. That you start second guessing yourself of is someone actually in the room right now? I can't. I don't know. Like, I'd actually like to go back and see if the directors pointed out in some of those moments, like, was someone actually in the hallway, or was someone supposed to be in the hallway at that moment? It'd actually be really cool to see.
Yep.
Yeah.
One other thing to mention, because it's out on DVD this weekend, so clearly it's out for. It should have a digital release as well. 1917. If you have not seen that, go see that movie.
Do see that movie. Go see that movie. I love Single Shot.
Yes, and Jumanji 2. I ended up in to celebrate the. And I know I'm going back a week or two, but I celebrated the shutdown in Illinois by watching Jumanji 2, which was delightful. Danny DeVito is great, and Awkwafina playing Danny DeVito is just brilliant. And the other one, which I've been so excited for.
Good Lord!
No, that's not a spoiler.
That's not in the trailers.
Awkwafina wasn't even in the trailers.
I think she's in one shot. But yeah.
But my absolute favorite that came out this month, and it just came out on DVD this last week. So it is available via streaming, or you can get it on Amazon, Google, or Apple. Is Red Sun?
Oh yeah.
Which is one of my absolute favorite Superman stories ever. And actually, if I've turned people to being Superman fans after reading that one.
Yeah. For folks at home that don't know, Tom, you want to give like a super short synopsis on?
Sure. So Red Sun is the story of Superman, but he arrives on planet Earth about 14 hours earlier than in his original story. So he crash lands in the Ukraine instead of Kansas. And he is a farmer in the Ukraine and has discovered his strength and is taken under Stalin's wing. And hilarity ensues. And you still have Batman is a character in this. Wonder Woman is still in it, but they're in different lights, different contexts. Green Lantern, Lex Luthor, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But it's just seeing how the world would react, because this whole time Superman has been about truth, justice, and the American way. But what if he was the right hand of the Soviet Union in the height of the Cold War?
Yeah.
How would he be? Yes. So check it out. That is, if you're a huge Superman fan, you probably know about it and have seen it. If you are not, or a Superman adjacent fan, go see it.
Yeah, I enjoy. Yeah, I need to finish it. I enjoyed what I saw.
Oh,
it's not that long. I don't know what pulled me away from it, but yeah.
Probably spilling water on something.
Yeah, we'll talk about that later. We'll bring that up later. All right. Thanks, movie nerds. It's been a great first episode. We'll see you next week. And don't forget to subscribe to the show wherever you listen to podcasts, because it will be available everywhere. And while you're at it, why don't you go ahead and check out the great content that we try to pump out every day on nerdunion.us. Until next time, we'll see you.
Good night.